What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bitcoin and Markets. Happy Monday out there. It is Bitcoin Fundamentals Report Day. Every Monday, the most comprehensive newsletter in Bitcoin goes out, and then we cover it, just discuss here on a live stream. So let me share my screen and jump right into it. Bitcoinandmarkets.com is where you go for all of my stuff. Again, it is by joining the free email list, you get the most comprehensive Bitcoin newsletter. Comes out every Monday. So let's go right into it. Oh, before I get too far, I do want to make sure people get their price forecast in. If you're a paid member on the website, you can enter the price forecast competition every month. The closest person wins $20 in sats over the Lightning Network. So you get a little bit of camaraderie here, for fun competition with other members. That's one of the perks for supporting me at bitcoinandmarkets.com for $5 a month. Also have premium content available for $15 a month. And I appreciate everybody that does support. Okay, let's go back into the fundamentals report, number 321. And going down here, snapshot of Bitcoin. Back over 100K. Of course, we'll look at the price. We'll go over what my expectations are for the next week or so, where I think we're at right now in price. Can we break out today? Can we get to the all-time high today or this week? We'll talk about that down below. Media sentiment is still very, very positive. I'm not seeing really anything negative at all about Bitcoin. If you go back 10 years, man, we could never have dreamed that we would be getting this close to global adoption, this close to nation state adoption, and they weren't fighting us. It's pretty amazing. All right, network traffic is very low. We'll take a look at the mempool and all that. Mining industry is steady. Weekly price 102.43 at the time of writing. That's up $7,500 on the week, Monday to Monday. That's issue to issue. 8%. Market cap is now back over $2 trillion. Satoshis per dollar, under 1,000 now, 979. One finny, that's 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin. Right in the middle of the decimal places, that is $10.20. Mining sector. Previous difficulty adjustment was, let's see, about 10 days ago, and it was 1.1%. Next estimated adjustment coming up in about 5 days, it'll be 1.5% as of right now. That's what's estimated. Mempool, 62 megabytes, down another 10 megabytes from last week. So there is really low transaction throughput right now on the network. Fees for the next block, $1.43. That is above last week. I guess anytime above, when it's above $1 or above about 7 sats per virtual byte, is slightly elevated, but this is so highly variable. It could be this high for just a few minutes, a couple blocks, and then go back down to a lower fee. But if you want to save a little bit, if you can wait an hour or more, it's only $1 to get into the blockchain. Lightning capacity continues to fall almost 1% for the number of BTC in there, and channels down 78 channels this week, or 0.2% in total. All right, let me take a look at the comments, guys. I am live streaming on YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, and Telegram. So Eastside Tony, greetings back at you. Happy New Year. Okay, if you're watching on Twitter, check out the YouTube and Rumble. You can find those links in my pinned tweet. That's a better place to go back and forth, use the chat, right? Also, comment and subscribe when you're over there. Appreciate that. Trying to grow to 1,000 subs to get monetized. All right. Let's jump into the headlines for Bitcoin. Oh, also, if you guys are finding me new, the way we do this, the most comprehensive newsletter in Bitcoin, we cover headlines for Bitcoin and macro. Then we do price analysis, mining, layer 2. If there's stuff for layer 2, which is kind of rare these days. So, all right. IRS delays new Bitcoin tax reporting until 2026. We will get this eventually, but it's just been delayed here. It's not a good or a bad thing, really. So they were just trying to clarify how to do your cost basis accounting for Bitcoin. requiring first in, first out by account, which is already there under general good faith practices. So if you're doing good faith recording of these things, that you would already be up to date with this new kind of clarification from the IRS. That's how I understand it. Of course, I'm not a tax professional, so this is not tax advice. Many people utilize the universal account method, which treats all their Bitcoin as if it were held in a single account. They sell some low basis Bitcoin from one account, but use a high basis from another account. So they say you bought some on Coinbase 5 years ago, and then you bought some very recently from Cash App, and then you sell some Bitcoin. Instead of using first in, first out, what they're doing is they're saying my Cash App Bitcoins are, if you sold on Coinbase, they would still use a higher basis from their Cash App Bitcoins that they bought. And so that's kind of a way to hide. It is tax evasion, not avoidance. Avoidance is okay. Evasion is bad. So anyway, the rule will also clarify how to apply basis to self-custody Bitcoin that is commingled from multiple sources. That's always dangerous, but I recommend log everything you do. This is not tax advice, but be very diligent in tracking coins and their basis to minimize tax headaches in the future. Consider multiple cold storage wallets, one per account. So if you do have a Coinbase account and a Kraken account, you can have cold storage wallets for both of those, one for each account. That way you're not going to get it mixed up. Lastly, just don't sell your Bitcoin. If you hold for another 5 to 10 years, you might not have to sell your Bitcoin. You could just use it as if it's backed by, or if Bitcoin is backing the dollar, you don't have to sell your Bitcoin eventually, right? So never sell your Bitcoin, just hold on to it. Long-term, low time preference. And also there could be better tax rules in the future. If we're not on a Bitcoin standard yet, but we're approaching a Bitcoin standard, there'll be better and better type of tax treatment, most likely. And so it could just benefit you from that in that regard if you wait. Okay, that's it for the IRS taxes. Sailor's 100K party. I didn't watch any of it. I didn't go. I didn't watch. I didn't really care anything about it. It didn't really interest me at all. However, I did see Trace Mayer made an appearance. He's one of the wealthiest Bitcoiners who disappeared after an uncharacteristic fling with Mimblewimble shitcoin. Mimblewimble, it was a different type of consensus mechanism. Now I'm trying to remember. I should have looked this up before we went live here. But Mimblewimble, it wasn't proof of stake and it wasn't proof of work. It was some other type of ongoing process where the coins are attached to each other, linked into the future. Anyway, it was about 5 years ago or so, and he was always Bitcoin only, Bitcoin very hardcore against altcoins, and then he went into this Mimblewimble scam and then disappeared after that. So I think he also wrote a book like How to Disappear. That was about gold back in the day, how to kind of go off grid, right? And so I think he kind of staged his stunt with Mimblewimble to disappear here. But interesting that he was seen out in public, very public there at the Michael Saylor party. He probably knows Michael Saylor pretty intimately. He's a Wyoming guy, I believe. So, with the Caitlin Longs and that kind of stuff. Okay, that's it for the Saylor party. If you guys know any other hot gossip, you can put it in the chat. Anyway, okay, internal FDIC letter leaked showing Operation Choke Point 2.0. Once again, Operation Choke Point 2.0 is back in the news. It's not really in the news, it's just in the Bitcoin headlines on Bitcoin Twitter. This week, an internal letter from the FDIC was leaked that apparently shows that the FDIC is announcing an unofficial policy to, quote, pause all crypto-related activity. This is the best evidence yet of a coordinated effort to ban Bitcoin. Specifically, they did mention the word Bitcoin. I don't really care much about the shitcoin crackdown all that much. because we don't have to support force or fraud. You don't have to take a side. So shitcoins are force, or sorry, shitcoins are fraud, and government is force. Force and fraud are both bad things. Which one are you going to be against? Which side are you going to take? Well, how about we don't take a side when it comes to the shitcoins? We take a side for Bitcoin. So this is Bitcoin specific, and that's a different question. I also take it with a grain of salt every time a scammer tells me something because scammers lie. That's their business. And so if they're telling me this Operation Choke Point 2.0 is a really big thing, then I tend to believe them. Now, I don't think Caitlin Long is a scammer, but she is very, very frustrated. And this does, this has a lot to do with her not getting the licenses that she wanted and the accounts that she wanted for her bank, Custodia. So I understand why she's in this Operation Choke Point 2.0. But for the most part, 99.9% of people that are really concerned about this OCP 2.0, they're scammers. Okay. But in this letter, it was clearly a request and not a command. So if you look down closely in here, it says, "We respectfully ask that you pause all crypto asset related activity." So it's not a command, it is a request. And it does say here Bitcoin transactions. The way I read this, and I might be wrong, you guys can correct me in the comments, but the proposed product is apparently an avenue for bank customers to engage in crypto asset activity, specifically Bitcoin transactions, through a third party arrangement. So, what they're trying, sounds like what they're discussing is back in 2022, some people were trying to do some Bitcoin transactions, but the bank didn't like it. And so they're going to arrange through a third party to do these transactions, maybe a subsidiary or something like that. And so they said, they put this out as informational and asking them, requesting them to pause crypto asset related activity. Where this went, it probably just died, and it was kind of a unofficial policy here. That's what they're claiming, but it doesn't look that bad. I mean, if I saw this, I'm kind of disgusted by it, but it doesn't raise to the level of huge conspiracy against crypto at all costs, right? That's my reading of this, but I don't really care too much about this. Other development along these lines is the resignation of Michael Barr from his role at the Federal Reserve as Vice Chair of Supervision. He was on Nick Carter's most wanted list for Operation Choke Point. This is seen as a major win for Caitlin Long and other Bitcoin banks. So it's a good thing. Overall, this Michael Barr stepping down, there is a shakeup going on. All right, let me just check comments. Eastside Tony, I heard Sailor is a spook. I heard a comment today where he's like, "Oh, I'm going to make sure that I burn my Bitcoins when I die or make them unspendable." Because, he's not married, he doesn't have kids. Multi-billionaire. MicroStrategy won't die if he dies, but, that it's interesting that he would say something like that. Other people have said, "Oh, it's a plant to actually accumulate Bitcoin for the United States government." Well, what if in his will, his personal Bitcoin stack, he might leave to the government or something like that? He has never been really any sort of hardcore libertarian or anarchist. He's not from the OG circles of Bitcoin. So I can see that. But I don't think he's like specifically a spook or anything. There are some people out there that are questionable, very questionable, but I don't think Sailor's one. Okay, let's move on into the macro. This will be the third week in a row that I'm talking about the Chinese government bond yields because it is pretty incredible. So China's economic situation continues to worsen. It is a flight to safety with all yields below the COVID crash lows. So you can see here's COVID back here on the left. And if you run up to today, everything is below where it was during COVID. The 1 year held out for a while, but this recent dip has put it below the COVID lows. There are rumors of another virus spreading in China, but with much less attention than COVID. It could be a plan by the CCP to blame a virus again for the bad economy. There is some acute stress taking place right now as if a bank run is on. We aren't getting much from behind the curtain in China, but but I think we will start getting some leaks over the next few weeks. It should have sunk into people that the Chinese miracle is over. They won't be pulling us out of the next global slowdown. All right, next headline. Major upheaval in Western governments. This morning, Justin Trudeau resigned as prime minister. It's not effective immediately, I guess. He's going to, or is it effective immediately, or he just shut down the parliament and his party has to select a new leader, right? And they have that till March. I'm not sure on the exact timeline here. And then the national vote is still on for October. But this is seen as a very good sign, obviously. It's a sign that the globalists are losing, continue to lose. And yeah, some people, like I saw, what's his name? Oh gosh, I'm blanking. The Davos man guy. Oh, why can't I think of his name right now? Totally blanking. But he said, hey, they're just going to replace him with somebody worse. That's a defeatist attitude. This is another sign, a step on the way. So Trump's election, first we had Brexit, then we had Trump's election, first election. Now we have Trump's second election. We have some of the governments in Europe flipping over to conservative. We have the rise of the ADF. We have the rise of Le Pen. We have the rise of Giorgia Meloni. Now Canada, Trudeau having to resign. And so it's all going in one direction, right? It's going towards a populist conservative type of revolution around the world. Germany is still attempting to freeze out the rapidly rising ADF party from ever forming a government, even amending the constitution to freeze out any of the possible influence on the judiciary branch ahead of the next election. They are also losing their minds about Musk tweeting support for the ADF. In France, Macron is losing his cool at Elon, while they attempt to keep Le Pen from running for office ever again with lawfare. Overall, the wave of populist conservatism is picking up speed, pushing back against the institutionalized Marxism the people want out of. So, yeah, it's the globalists are losing at every turn, going back towards a more nationalist, populist, conservative type of era. Everybody is going to slide towards that political persuasion, not all the way. I mean, some will be more, some will be less. But the post-World War II kumbaya moment of the Pax Americana, free trade around the world, that's over. That's over. So we're rolling into an era where institutional trust will be lower, not just nationally, but internationally. Most importantly, credit markets will not have as much carrying capacity. So as the world breaks apart, credit markets will break apart, and you won't be able to hold up this huge $300 trillion bubble of credit. Okay, the carrying capacity of the world might only be 50 trillion instead of 300 trillion, right? So all that will have to collapse, all the derivatives and everything. And we're going into a new era, and that's what Bitcoin represents. So Bitcoin, a lot of people think Bitcoin is like futuristic because it's digital, but Bitcoin actually represents a return to sound money, a return to gold. That's what Bitcoin represents. And so that's what I would think of it. It's not going to be, Bitcoin cannot be used. Well, I guess it could be used between Earth and Mars, but sometimes that would take a long time. You definitely couldn't mine on Mars, you have to mine on Earth. I guess you could mine on the moon if you had some sort of access to energy or something, but Bitcoin is a one planet money. You could use it, say, you know, in a cold card where it's physical, where you just have a private key and you trade that private key. Maybe you have denominations, so you do a lot of transactions to split up Bitcoin into different denominations. And then you can just trade the physical Bitcoins. Maybe they're in the future, they're on crystals, like little crystal thumb drives or something. That's possible to be used interplanetary, but double spending depends on the speed of light. Consensus depends on the speed of light, and so it's pretty much a one planet thing. So anyway, I'm talking about the futurism. Uh, Bitcoin does not represent some multi-planetary future. Bitcoin represents Earth and going back towards a more simple society where the money instantiates the trust it needs. Like if someone hands you a gold coin, you don't need a big apparatus of banks and international agreements and all this stuff. You have the money right there as a gold coin or silver coin. And so Bitcoin is the same way. It represents going away from the institutional overhead that we've built up over the last 50 years, peeling that back. And that's going to it's going to feel like going back in time a little bit. It's not going forward in time. That's for sure. Okay. You want to disagree with that? Do it in the comments. Okay. Ukraine stops Russian gas to Europe. This is new. They've been threatening to do this for a while, and it looks like it is now guaranteed. So on the morning of the first day of 2025, the Russian Federation stopped supplying gas to European buyers via Ukraine. Even amidst the conflict, the Russian Gazprom and Ukrainian Naftogaz had kept in operation an energy transit agreement signed in 2020, which expired on the last day of 2024. Previously, Kiev had already announced it was unwilling to renew the contract with Gazprom, although some European countries repeatedly asked Ukraine to do so. So they're giving, Europe is giving them all this money and equipment and backing, like rhetorical backing. And then what does Ukraine do? They shut down the gas to Europe. Obviously, there are currently energy reserves that may be enough to cope with the challenges of the current season, but the situation will progressively become more critical over time. European nations will have to find new sources of gas or expand the use of the only two remaining routes for Russian gas via Turkey and the Black Sea, or from the United States. And that's pretty convenient. Okay, so that's it for the macro headlines. Let's take a look at any comments. Mark Carney. Jason. Now, I'm trying to think of Point will know. Well, who's the guy here in Florida? Goats, Guns. The Goats and Guns guy. Gold, Goats, and Guns. It's totally slipping my mind. I can't remember his name right now. Anyways. Okay, let me see if there's any from Telegram. Luongo Point. Thank you, Tom Luongo. Yeah, not Mark. Why couldn't I think of that? Oh, man. Sometimes it's funny what you forget. Okay, Boog asked me to review the Nick Bhatia thing. Yeah. Were you the first one to request that? There was one other request at least. So yeah, I'll do that this week. Okay. All right, guys. Let's get back into it. Price of Bitcoin. Last week I said my base case for this week was to hold 90,000. Or sorry, my base case for last week was to hold 90,000. There could be a resurgence of buying in the new year. If any rally comes, it will likely start then. So I meant around the new year. 2 weeks ago, now let's rewind 2 weeks. And what I say, I said we could range until after the inauguration. However, if we hold 90, there could be a significant rally on the rumor prior. So, buy the rumor, sell the news sort of thing, buy the lead up to the inauguration, sell at the inauguration time or trade, whatever. Um, well, 90 held. And so now we're working on the seventh positive day in a row. Let's take a look at this. This is about 90.5, actually. It's not exactly 90, but that held. And now we were back above 100K. Let's take a look at the live chart here real fast. So pretty much the same as when I snapped that. The high today, 102.5. So pretty big day for the Bitcoin price. Let's go back to the report. Below is the December 23 to February 24 pattern that I introduced last week. So far, we are following this pretty well, even breaking higher sooner. So here was, if we took December 23 through February 24 and we mapped that onto this Bitcoin price, it was following very nicely. And I noted that down here at the bottom. And we've turned around just like that. So we'll see if we are going to consolidate here out this way towards this inauguration, which is this red line here, or if we just continue higher. It's possible that we just continue higher, but let's continue reading. So far, we're following the pattern pretty well, even breaking out. Okay, it remains to be seen if we can hold 100K for good, or do we still have another week of consolidation? I'm expecting a new all-time high by inauguration. So how many days is that? 14 days. So we're going to have another all-time high within the next 2 weeks in a front run to Trump's first day actions. If those first day actions disappoint, we will likely head back to 100K soon after the inauguration. However, if he frees Ross Ulbricht and announces a conversion of the seized Bitcoin into a Bitcoin reserve, price could continue directly higher after day one. If things go well, we might see a slew of countries announce their Bitcoin reserves at the same time as Trump. So maybe the UAE, Qatar, others might be announcing that. Maybe Japan, probably not Japan, but maybe China even. More on those price targets in the next premium post, okay? We are back above, typo there. We are back above the 50-day moving average, showing some major strength, holding it through the weekend, and then jumping off of it today. So here's the 50-day moving average. Dipped below it. We were watching this at the time or commenting on it on the day that this happened. And it went lower, held 90,000 in a very strong, I think this is a show of major strength. And then it went right back above the 50-day where it hung out all weekend. No dips even on the weekend. Kind of bounced off even yesterday. Bounced off the 50-day moving average, and we are going, much higher right now. So this looks very strong to me. My base case for this week is to inch towards the all-time high with a rising chance of a breakout to a new all-time high. If a breakout does occur this week, it will follow the now standard pattern. This is where the breakout happens quickly and doesn't allow for people to get in late. So let's go back to the Bitcoin chart. Let's take a look at a couple other things. So this is the daily. And if we look at some of the, momentum indicators, we have the RSI, relative strength. It reset. So it was significantly overbought here, up at 85. And if you look back to the left here, pretty much 85 is where you're like, okay, that's the move is over, right? Well, that was right at this where we're marking the 90,000 from. Then we had consolidation on the way down. MACD also consolidated down. And now we have a crossover of MACD, a very strong crossover from neutral territory. And the same with RSI. Strong reversal here in the RSI from roughly the 50 neutral line. And so this looks really good for a price breakout. It is the best position that you can pretty much wish for from these things for a price breakout like this or reversal, I guess. So that's the Bitcoin. Let's we don't have to take a look at anything else, but I did want to bring up what I had another one I wanted to bring up, but I forgot what it was. I'm spacing. But if you guys want me to take a look at something else, you can put that in the chat. Okay, so that was price. Let's get on to the mining sector. But to do that, I'm going to look at comments. Okay, yeah, you guys are saying Tom Luongo. Yeah, thank you. I don't know how that slipped my mind, man. Davos, man. In Marty Bent's latest podcast with Parker Lewis, Parker mentioned that Trump should say he will use the tariff money to buy Bitcoin and China will pay for it. What do you think? Interesting. Interesting. I don't think he can do that. The only thing that Trump can do unilaterally is to do the exchange stabilization fund. It's around 200 billion, but he wouldn't put all of that into Bitcoin. You know, at most he might turn the seized Bitcoin that's about 200,000 into the reserve and then spend about 10 or 20 billion from the exchange stabilization fund. But as you buy more Bitcoin, there's less and less chance of needing to use the exchange stabilization fund. And so maybe, we'd see he'd go 10 at first, then 20, then 30, wherever he would stop buying. But that's a unilateral thing that he can do. So total, he could probably get to about 250,000 Bitcoins. UAE is rumored to have 300,000 now. So he wouldn't be number one, which he always wants to be. Anything above that would need congressional approval. And it's very possible that it happens. Maybe not in the first 100 days or anything like that, but 2025, it's possible. And the Overton window would have moved by then. A lot of people, when they look at these things, they say, it can never happen. It would never happen. But they're looking at it from today's perspective, where they're taking all of the acceptable, comments, what you can say in polite society, they're taking that into account, but they're not thinking about the Overton window moving and new things becoming normal. And talking about a Bitcoin reserve is very quickly becoming normal. It's something that you can talk about in polite society. It's something that the major business people, Larry Fink, they're all about it. It is acceptable now. The Overton window has shifted. And if you give us to the end of 2025, where now we have an official reserve at 250,000, maybe even we have gone into recession, and it's something that they push through as saying it's going to help with the recession, right? And whatever the case is, it's possible. It's very possible by the end of 2025, definitely possible by the end of Trump's term. I would put the odds, Polymarket, their odds are in the first 100 days. It's at around 29% still. I mean, I think that's about legit for the first 100 days. But if you say that Trump's entire presidency, his full 4 years, I would put it higher than 50% that we're going to get a Bitcoin reserve. Like the law changed so we can buy more Bitcoin. Okay, Raphael says, Tom Luongo went on a classic rant on the latest Bitcoin Matrix podcast with Cedric. I'm not sure. I don't know about the Matrix podcast, Bitcoin Matrix podcast with Cedric. He went off on the globalists, like you always mention, and went off on the libertarians. It was awesome. Yeah, well, I knew they were like global Marxists pretty much, but I encountered the term Davos man from Tom Luongo, and I think it perfectly encapsulated that group of people because Davos is kind of like their think tank, right? And what's his name? Klaus Schwab. He is the perfect evil villain, but he's also a radical communist. So yeah, the global Marxists are what they are. Davos man, it was a great encapsulation of that idea. So Tom Luongo has had some good stuff. He also talked about the bankers kind of revolting against Davos man. So, in the beginning, the bankers were happy to oblige the global Marxists and pay for their ill-fated green agenda, their ill-fated kind of culture war, that would be okay. They were playing along. But as soon as COVID happened and the bankers realized, holy crap, we're not the ones in power. Holy crap, I thought we were the ones in power this whole time. But COVID showed them that the Marxists were in power. And that's extremely dangerous for a banker. And so the bankers revolted against the globalists. And it just happens to be that the bankers' interests align with Bitcoiners, right? With the people. It won't always be that way, but both self-interests are aligned right now against a common enemy, which is the globalists. Larry Fink is a perfect example of that. Okay. He is a banker class person, and he is aligned with Bitcoin against the global Marxists. Will that continue? I don't know. So that's what I have to say about that. Tom Luongo, yeah, he has some great rants, but I don't agree with 50% of what he says or more. He sees very deep conspiracy in all these places where I don't. I see it's a very loose, very surface level type of conspiracy, and people always act according to their own self-interest. They don't have some long, grand plans, like the Whitney Webbs of the world and stuff. I'm not a big conspiracy guy like that. Now, I do think there are conspiracies like a lot of the stuff around COVID, and big pharma trying to make us sick and stuff like that, or at least not studying things as thoroughly as they should. So I do believe in some of those things, but those aren't like massive incentive-based conspiracies that are like multi-decade and stuff like that. So no, I don't follow Tom Luongo down that road very, very long. Oh, that reminds me of a tweet that I had today. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Okay, here it is. So you know how they're talking about warning about all of these different viruses coming out, and they're trying to get this scare going. Well, I think we can tell that COVID was not planned, because this is what it would look like if COVID were planned. They would be pushing it on the news. They would be trying to sell fear, obviously, and it's pretty ineffective. Also, in the very early stages of COVID, remember the extreme Marxists, the Democrat radicals, they were saying, go out there, don't worry about social distancing. It's just a cold. It's just the flu or whatever. And then as soon as they flipped the script, like 2 months later, and now they're all about masks. They're all about social distancing. They're all about getting the vaccine and stuff like that. So yeah, we can tell that COVID wasn't planned. But they took advantage of an accident, and they blew it out of proportion. That's how I see it. And again, the bankers said, oh my God, we're not in control. So then they flipped the script, and that's why we have a second Trump presidency and everything like that. Okay. Back to the report. Okay, yeah, I will listen to it, Raphael. Let me check Telegram and see if there was any comments. Okay. On to the mining sector. What time is it? 5:21. Got a few more minutes. Not much left here. Mining sector, mempool, things like that. Experts are turning to an unexpected industry to ease geopolitical tensions and offset rising energy costs. It's about solving real-world problems. Okay, so the European Bitcoin Energy Association. This is some Bitcoin group. It's not like an official government agency or anything like that, believes the sector will play a crucial role in solving the continent's energy crisis by stabilizing grids while utilizing surplus power and renewable energy. Bitcoin miners can switch off when electricity prices surge and switch on when prices drop, making it an ideal partner for stabilizing grids, Rachel Geyer told Forbes. EBEA is collecting proof of concept projects to demonstrate how Bitcoin mining can help with the build out of renewables and aid grid stability. For example, the organization is running a pilot program that combines clean energy and Bitcoin mining to stabilize the grid in Austria, which had the ninth highest per capita electricity generated by hydroelectric power in 2023. Okay, so this is just showing, okay, the Europeans are in trouble with Ukraine shutting off natural gas, and their economy is going to hell. They made some really bad energy choices over the last several decades, and now Bitcoin is being talked about in this conversation. Can it come in and help fix things? So Bitcoin is, you don't have to go very far under the surface in most of these type of geopolitical or national conversations to find the influence of Bitcoin, which is very surprising. Okay, mining company Mara lent out 7,000 BTC to third parties in 2024. You guys can check that out. It's from Cointelegraph. I think it was on all the major Bitcoin outlets. According to Samuels, Mara's Bitcoin lending program focuses on short-term arrangements with well-established third parties, generates a modest single-digit yield, and has been active throughout 2024. The Mara executive added that the purpose of the lending program is to generate income to offset operating expenses incurred by mining. Okay. And also, like, Marathon likes to stack their coins, right? Many months their stack increases above what they mine. Even before they started really raising money simply to buy Bitcoin, they would increase, like if they mined 400 Bitcoins a month, their Bitcoin HODL stack might go up by 500. So they're making more money off of other things. Usually a miner would have to sell their Bitcoin to get the revenue to pay off their bills, right? To pay for their electricity. But in this case, they're not doing that. They're actually generating some revenue from holding their Bitcoin, which is very interesting. Mining is an energy intensive business with tough fundamentals due to a reduced block subsidies every 4 years in the Bitcoin halving, which last occurred in April. So maybe they're doing more of this because of the halving year. I'm not sure. Reducing the block reward to 3.125 BTC per mine block. Okay, so that's that story. Hash rate and difficulty, and I did not update this verbiage. So let's just look at the image. Oh, man. So the light yellow line is like daily hash rate. The darker yellow line is, I think it's a 7-day moving average. You can see it's starting to slope upward here a little bit. And the pink line is the difficulty. So the hash rate is going to be on this axis over here, and the difficulty is on the right axis. We are going to have an adjustment in about 5 days from now, and you can see it most likely will come up to meet this moving average, up about 1.5%. Overall, nice and steady incline here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 positive adjustments in a row. Nice and steady. All seems well on the Bitcoin mining front. Okay, how about this one? This is the mempool. This rainbow chart is showing the different colors are different amounts of fees. So you pay by the byte, or really the virtual byte in Bitcoin. And the pink is 1 to 2 sats per virtual byte. And then the next one is 3 to 4 sats, and then 5 to 6 sats. And you can, as that goes up, the fees are going up. Remember, the average at the time up above from the snapshot was 10 sats per virtual byte. And so, yeah, they're not even making it into the mempool, and slowly but surely they're being chowed down. I should have looked at the inscriptions. Maybe I'll do that for next week. The inscriptions and ordinals, I bet, are just non-existent at this point, because there are a lot of this lower fee transactions, that traffic. And if they're getting eaten away and not replaced, then it's probably because ordinals and inscriptions have very little movement going on at all for them. If we take out that pink, you can see just bouncing off the bottom. Every once in a while, we have a little bit of a spike on a day, but overall, very, very low, able to eat through it. And nothing for layer 2. Next week, I'll put in there the ordinals and inscriptions. Okay, so in case you missed it, this week I did Bitcoin is the antithesis of fiat to respond to Shinobi, his article that said Bitcoin is fiat. And so I had to respond. Of course, the premium content and my latest on Forbes. I need to write another Forbes piece. Thought I could get 2 out in December, but I only got 1 out. But I will be getting 1 in January. Okay, back up to the top. And let's take a look at any comments here. Raphael says, Whitney Webb is great. The thing she rambles a lot about all these guys that are evil and ties to this guy and that other guy and never gives any solution or white pills. Yeah. And everything is not what it seems. You know, I mean, I don't know her. I'm sure she's a fine person. I have met Mark Goodwin, and he's a real cool guy. I've just chatted to him, like probably 5-10 times on video chat. Seems like a really cool dude. I have nothing against him, but you can't see everything as a conspiracy. Where is not a conspiracy? What can you know is real? When everything is conspiracy, nothing is real. And so how do you know anything's a conspiracy? You don't have anything to base your judgment on. But anyway, let me take a look at Telegram, see if there's any comments in there. Nope. All right. So how many people do we got watching? 277. That's getting up there. So what's up, guys? Ansel Linder, Bitcoin and Markets, put out this most comprehensive newsletter in Bitcoin every Monday. You guys, it's free if you go to the website, bitcoinandmarkets.com. Just join the free tier. You can also join a paid tier to support my work. I've been doing this for 331 weeks, a little bit more than that because I have skipped a few weeks in there. But yeah, never sold a scam, never led you guys down a rug pull lane. Bitcoin only, have had very good insights in the past. Saw China coming recently. Strong dollar. Saw that coming when nobody else did. Saw transitory coming when no one else did. Yeah. So that do a lot of Bitcoin and macro content. Also, if you want to join for the $5 level, we do these things every month. It's the monthly price forecast competition. The closest person to the price at the end of the month gets 20 sats. So you make a prediction of what the price is going to be at the end of the month, and the closest person gets $20 in sats. So you have till the 7th, I said, right? Let's see. Did I extend this out? Yeah, till the 7th to enter that. So if you want to sign up to be a paid member, $5 a month, you have a chance to win $20 in sats, and it supports this show. I can't do this show without people supporting. So I 100% want to put my appreciation out to people for that. All right. Bitcoinandmarkets.com is the homepage. Let's see what else we got in here. Any other comments? 278 people watching. Most of you are on Twitter. Jump over to YouTube and Rumble. Trying to grow the subscriber base over there. Appreciate that very much. Trying to get the YouTube to 1,000 subscribers. All right. Well, I'm going to call it a day there, guys. So thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.